We're home. We're back in our states as representatives. But we've made it clear to the Senate that we are willing to go back on a moment's notice if they'll pull their plan together and meet us at the table and talk about a solution that can move this ball forward and stop this all from happening. So, lots to talk about today, and I'm sure I haven't covered everything you want to talk about. So I want to make sure we open it up for questions and that we get what you would like to talk about.
What you have in your bill for job creation?
What did we have in our bill for job creation? We've passed 30-some bills to sponsor job creation. Lots of it having to do with cutting bureaucratic red tape. One act was called the Jumpstart Our Business Startups. It was about 6 pieces of legislation that had come to the House by themselves, but had never gone anywhere in the Senate anyway. And we grouped those together into an act called the Jobs Act, Jumpstart Our Business Startups, that would make it easier for businesses to start, make it easier for businesses to get access to capital, make it easier for businesses to sustain once they get into operation, and eliminate a lot of that bureaucratic red tape. Dan, do we have that bureaucratic red tape poster in the back of our car?
No.
Okay. All right. I wish we'd have brought it. It's a mind-boggling puzzle to look at all the bureaucratic red tape that businesses have to go
We already know that.
Yeah, you know that. You know that. And we've sent some 30-plus jobs bills over to the Senate, and we just don't get any help. Another question. Of course, you got it.
Yeah, I have.
Yes, sir.
Why has elected officials also numbers on divisions of government like Corps of Engineers, EPA, Corps of Engineers, and their changes in this water flood is terrible to the people along this river. Right now, you're setting on something like 16 or 17 will fill this building just in order to get on flooding. Now, just a few years ago, this little building right down here was built in the floodplain. This floodplain is 6 foot high. That was in the floodplain. Now, this building has to put all this fill in. It built another restaurant right down here, same thing as that. When I built my restaurant, I got a 2 foot above the flood. Now my restaurant is a 4 foot, 4.5 foot below the flood, which means that I have to have floodplain insurance if I want to do anything with it. It is pre-evaluated my property.
Sure.
Yeah. It's sort of everything and everyone on this building, and every place that they have done something. And if you will remember that, and I remember this, the Corps of Engineers put in all these locks and dams to facilitate traffic on this river, which is a wonderful thing. But at the same time, they told us that they would be able to control the flood better with all the system of locks and dams that we built. The city yet to come around and just keep raising the floodplain 900 by 100 times. It's idiotic, and there's no one in Washington that seems to do anything about it.
I'll be glad to take that specific issue and make some inquiries about it. Pat, we can certainly look into that with the Army Corps of Engineers about how they and why they continue to raise the floodplain. Your general question, though, about the regulatory agencies work for the Chief Executive. The regulatory agencies do not work for the House of Representatives nor the Senate. Now, we can pass laws that fund those agencies or defund those agencies, that define the parameters under which they can operate, that can tell the president the limits to which he can do certain things. But in order to pass that legislation to do that, Morris, we have to have some cooperation from both chambers of the Congress. And right now, we're in a valley. We're not getting that kind of cooperation that we need to address these issues from the Senate. You know, when our founding fathers put this great system together, you hear the term that the wheels of government turn slowly. Well, they do turn slowly, and they turn slowly for a reason. Our founding fathers did not want a new president, a new House of Representatives, a new Senate to come in and start willy-nilly changing things around and undermining what they had worked so very, very hard to put in place in our Constitution. Thankfully, for the most part, it has stood. I mean, you can read the Constitution in the United States in less time than it will take us to have this meeting here, from front to back. It's not that big and it's not that complicated. It doesn't take a lot of words to say that the power of control of the most powerful nation on the planet resides in the hands of the governed. That we, the people, are the ones that are in charge. The good news about those, the bad news about those slow-moving wheels is that when we're in times like this, when we need to make some corrections and we need to limit the authority of a bureaucracy like we're seeing today in the EPA and the Army Corps and others, it makes it difficult to do that because you got to have both of those slow-moving wheels operating in tandem in order to do that. And we go through these cycles. The good news is that when we're in times of prosperity, we can ride that for a long way without falling off the tracks. But when you're in tough times like we are now, it makes it very, very difficult when one chamber of the Congress does not cooperate. And that's where we are. It's been 3 years since the Senate of the United States has passed a budget. Now, can you imagine running your businesses or running your household without a budget? If you continue to borrow 40 cents on every dollar that you spend, that's the mindset that we're dealing with in the Senate right now. But we will take that issue. Pat, our legislative director, wrote that down. We'll get into that, and I'll get you some feedback, and we'll see what the Army Corps of Engineers says about the floodplain.
There's an urgent problem. You mentioned EPA. As EPA has got to control flowing water. Now they want to control all water. Still water, farm ponds, anything, even a mud puddle out in the middle of your field. That's a weapon.
I used to swim in mud puddles on that farm. We didn't have swimming pools. You know, we prayed for rain because we'd dig a hole and hope that it filled up so we could splash. But yeah, I understand. Who else had a question? I saw another hand. Was it you? No? Sorry.
Well, it's a different question, John. I'd like to further comment on something if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Going back to the small business attack, and I'm going to put it that way from what's happened from the administration, that's kind of fighting moves because that's how I've made my living my whole life, from farming to construction. And years ago, I was working on the railroad, and things weren't playing out very good. I was over in Pennsylvania, away from home, and I just couldn't keep work. And decided to come back home and get into a small business and get things started here again. And I actually bought property in Langsville to build a convenience store. And came to this bank establishment and got money, went out there and built it myself, and ran it, my wife and I, for 8 years. Well, during the time we were running this small business, a convenience store, I also owned a post office building and leased the post office on the same property at the same time. Well, along came what we called the Mother's Day flood that happened here in Southern Ohio. And when it came in, it rained and rained and rained, and you could tell this was an unusual flood. And we were in our little small business all day long, watching the waters rise, trying to figure, is this going to be more than usual? Because we live in low area. And when we decided, yes, in fact, this was an unusual flood, we started moving stuff out of the store. We started taking cabinets apart. We got all of our products out of it. And by midnight, that night, on a Saturday night, there was 4 inches of water in my store, and it was still coming up. So the next day, on a Sunday, when it really was up in everybody, Rutland, Langsville, the whole area out there was just devastated. We spent the day in a little boat that was borrowed from some of the neighbors with a little motor that hadn't been used in 5 years, rescuing people out of their houses, while Rutland was doing the same thing. And this is all leading up to something here. So Monday, the waters were back down. We got out there with the chlorine bleach and the sprayers, and we washed out the store. And got dehumidifiers and fans running. And Tuesday, we were stocking it back, and by Tuesday evening, we were open again. By Wednesday, the Red Cross showed up.
How many people from Washington showed up?
I'm getting to them, Bill. I'm getting to them.
Okay.
So by Wednesday, the Red Cross showed up. And they came in and they're like, hey, we need help. We got all these people that's displaced, all this mess. The National Guard is coming in. Can we use your little store as an outlet to give out some